I'm Tom Mennier, and you're listening to CVS Podcast. A two-way Q&A with David Ross and Tom Mennier. This is part 3 of a 5-part series in which David and Tom discuss each other's questions on matters of theological and cultural concern. A two-way Q&A, Part 3. Questions on the problem of hell and Catholicism. So, another straw man question that we hear all the time. What kind of God would let people go to hell, or worse, send people to hell?
It's a mercy of God. Hell is a mercy. Mm-hmm. There's nothing worse for the man, for the soul being tortured in hell. There would be nothing worse than being transported one micrometer, to use the analogy of physical space, to be transported 1 micrometer closer to heaven. No. They have their place in hell, and it is the best place for them. That's a mercy. That's a mercy for them. Any further away or any closer is even more torture. So they have grades of hell. There are different degrees of suffering in hell. You get exactly what you deserve, and you're exactly where you're meant to be. And to be transported to heaven would be worse. It would be worse. So it's a mercy because of the choice that you made is fixed for all eternity. You hate God. You're in a state of hatred towards God, towards the source of everything that's good. And you know that he's good. You know that he's the source of everything that's good. But it's too late. You've made your choice. You chose love of self unto contempt of God. So the fire of hell is the same as the fire of purgatory, is the same as the fire of the burning charity in heaven. It's the same fire. It is God. And what hell is the grace and the mercy to fall away and to have your place, your little niche where you're falling away, and that's the best place for you. And it's regrettable, and you will regret it, and you are burning with regret, primarily burning with regret. But it's still better than taking a little day trip to heaven. You you will not enjoy that because you're going to have just more of the same, more hell. You're gonna have more
for the soul that's not ready for it.
Because it's an orientation. If you are fixed in an orientation which is not correct, then the fire of God burns in a way that is unpleasant.
That's it.
If you're oriented, if your orientation is fixed at death in the proper orientation, there's nothing better. It's the greatest bliss and joy and fulfillment and freedom and everything that you and I want, and everything we appreciate here in this life, and everything that the atheists love and pay big bucks for. Pleasure, power, all the good stuff, all the sex, drugs, and rock and roll is in heaven, not in hell. And the fire of God's burning charity is the same fire that's torturing the one who's improperly oriented at the time of their death.
I've never heard quite that angle, but I think that's beautifully said.
Mercy.
And we experience this in daily life. Every one of us knows what it is to feel a sting to our ego, or to be out of sorts in our relationships. We all have a little taste of hell, and if we really go into that and examine what exactly is going on here, what you're feeling and why you're feeling it, it comes back to you and your relationship to God. It's not what the other person said or did to you primarily. It's your relationship to it. And you burn a certain way because you are not in proper orientation and understanding to the situation, or you are moved the other way towards love when you are properly oriented in understanding, closer to forgiveness and understanding, and being effective in your redressing of the situation, or the opposite. So we all have a glimpse of heaven and hell in our daily lives, whether we want to admit it or not. And the eternal manifestation or realm of hell and heaven is very much the same thing, but the cumulative choices that harden and materialize, if you will, our actual character is the critical point where we face heaven and hell at the end of our road. There's something slightly related to what we're saying in Charles Bukowski, one of my favorite saintly alcoholics. But his poetry has always moved me. And there's one line from him, it's on a billboard in California where they erected it after his death, I think. What matters most is how well you get through the fire. And to me, that is one single line that packs in so much meaning. Life is suffering. This is an inevitability. And we all have our singular and unique crosses to bear. And we can resent it, and we can find scapegoats for it, and we can blame society and blame our parents and blame others and blame our enemies. Or we can fully, as we were saying before, about the relationship and the understanding and the knowledge of where you stand in the whole thing, and gather the strength and courage and the honesty and the self-knowledge to get through that fire with dignity and grace and charity, which is really what that crazy bum, alcoholic Charles Bukowski had a wonderful insight into. Okay, great. So
one little thing to add, it's the same sun which hardens clay and softens wax. It's the same sun. This is the analogy the saints use with respect to grace and our orientation, or our composition, if you want, molecular composition, the structure of these, and how it reacts to the one and the same God. So that's an analogy for heaven and hell. Not to say that hell is melting wax and or vice versa. But basically, we can't blame God. God is God. God is the source of everything that's good. You choose. Choose your orientation. And you're being warned right now by me, as an instrument of God, to choose wisely and to choose life, just like Moses gave the same warning to the Jews. You could choose. Choose wisely. Choose life. It's just you pick your orientation. You pick your destiny. It's the same sun. You can't hurt the sun. Scream at the sun all you want. Blame the sun all you want. It doesn't change. You're going to be clay or you're going to be wax. It's up to you. You have the choice, but time's running out, so choose wisely and choose quickly. What about Catholicism? Why aren't you just a Baptist or a Presbyterian? Why are you a Catholic? If you're a Catholic, if you are a Catholic, you chose to be a Catholic. And if you chose to be a Catholic, presumably it's because you think that it's true. And if you think that it's true, why do you think that it's true? Not how do you convince someone else, but in your own heart of hearts, why do you think it's true if you do?
The real birth of the Catholic Church was 50 days after Christ's crucifixion on the day of Pentecost, the first day of Pentecost. And it comes directly out of the apostles who were there at the time and in the lifetime and in that era.
But they were all Southern Baptists, weren't they?
Yeah, they were all writhing on the floor, speaking in tongues. So it's closest to the source, and also because the scholarly tradition of the Catholic thinkers, the theology of Catholicism is so vastly rich that all these other forms of Christianity came much later, most of them, with the Reformation. And it's far removed from the source. It strikes me as kind of a worldly bargaining with the original faith, so that it can't help but strike me as somewhat compromised. I must say that reading Augustine and Thomas Aquinas and meditating on the lives of the saints and immersing myself in the thought and actions of the apostolic tradition is what has convinced me that the purest form and dogmas and theologies that align with Christ is Catholicism.
For myself, I would say I'm a monotheist because of causality. I am a Christian because of history, and I'm a Catholic because of authority. That's how I frame it. The authority by which we have an infallible canon The principle of proportionate causality says that we can't get an infallible canon from a fallible church. Therefore, the church is infallible.